Welcome back to a best of 3 series of professional StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a Terran versus Protoss, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on good old Amphion. Interesting map number 1. Spawning right here in the bottom left hand corner, playing with the red Terran SCVs from France. We're looking at none other than Clem's main command center. His opponent in the far top left, playing with the blue Protoss pieces from South Korea. We have none other than Nightmare. One of the highest ranked Protoss players from the Korean server. Yet also somebody that doesn't really get nearly as much attention, at the very least, compared to Clem. I feel like Clem is a player that everybody, well, always enjoys watching, and everybody knows that he's ridiculously good at the game. This is, yeah, a Protoss player that you certainly need to keep in mind, because he's gotten a lot, he's gotten a lot better over the last couple years. Apparently we're doing a pylon into gateway into pylon into, I guess, gateway. Yeah, we're starting off this series with a bang. Let's do it. This is, by the way, Clem in the 430 millisecond clan. I believe that that is just a remnant from the olden days, because Clem, he's currently over in South Korea. And this series was recently played, so no way that he's got 430 milliseconds of delay. But at the very least, whenever his like nickname is not capitalized, apparently that's when Clem is playing on his Korean account. Alrighty, so let's see. No scout right here from Clem, so he doesn't actually know what's going on. He should probably go for a command center on the low ground, although, yeah, if he knew what was going on, he would certainly not be good. Yeah, he would not be building it over here, but okay. And this is exactly what Nightmare was hoping for. So, gateway into gateway, into a cyber core eventually. Normally, the Nexus for Protoss gets built around 20, sometimes 21 supply. Meaning that, well, Nightmare is gonna have to deal some sort of damage on the other side of the map in order to justify all of this. So let's see. Stalker's coming up. One man with swords for hands is going across the map. Very inconvenient. I mean, I can imagine it's not very useful in day-to-day life. It's kind of nice when you're trying to cook up dinner, I guess, but other than that, very inconvenient to have swords for arms. But there will be a lot of aggression here, right at the very beginning of the game, and Clem is going to find out right now. Crisis management from Terran has to be on point. He really needs to try and finish that command center, but already it's been denied. He does pull the SCV that was building the command center off of the command center itself for just a moment to finish the bunker, which is nice and all, but Nightmare just runs by all of this. The Adept coming up right now is going to be able to shade by it too. This Stalker is not going to take much damage. I mean, it might take a bit of shields, but obviously it will be able to regen. So far, so good right here for the Korean Protoss. So this is what you get when you play a little bit too greedy, when you try to cut a corner too many. You don't go for an early SCV scout, and suddenly the game becomes a little bit difficult. Already a ton of damage is being done. Nexus, by the way, did start up in the meantime at home as well. It's about halfway done at this point. So this is not an all-in from Nightmare. He's likely to lose the gateway as well as the pylon when this ultimately settles, but yeah, if he can like force the cancel on this command center, that would be massive, and I don't really see exactly what Clem is going to be able to do about it. There will be a second Cyclone coming out soon. Maybe he can keep the CC alive. He's trying to buy as much time as possible. I wonder if Clem should have already canceled it and restarted it inside of the main. That's always the big decision you have to make as Terran. Like, is it worth canceling? Is it worth trying to hold on? Well, in this case, apparently it was worth trying to hold on. Because in the meantime, while this is all going on, one cheeky little SCV is, well, running up the scaffolding over here. Now, well, ultimately breaking it down, and he gets the command center finished. Cyclone trying its very best to get whatever damage it can. Ultimately, this one will go down as well. 5 SCVs is actually quite respectable. That is certainly not the end of the world. Walls himself back in right now with a reactor. Another Cyclone did pop out. That is Cyclone number 3. The other 2 did not live for long enough. And, well, this is how we most commonly see Cyclones in 2024. Yeah. Used to be a core unit once upon a time. Sometimes it still is. But most of the time it's really good in these wonky scenarios. Certainly a specialty unit, but still very strong in the right position. Alrighty, so. Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if you can already go up there, so Clem doesn't know where the gateway is built, but he can probably make the assumption it's up here or maybe over here in the bottom. Problem is that he can't really move out all too far because he doesn't know exactly how much Protoss there is out on the map. Turns out it's safe to go across, as it's actually a Glaives follow-up right now from Nightmare. Interesting. What are we gonna do with the Glaives? Usually, like, the main problem with Glaives is that it's really strong in a timing attack and it can catch the Terran player or the Zerg player or even the Protoss player off guard quite a bit. But it doesn't have a lot of longevity, so you need to try and hit and as hard as possible and then hope that you can actually get value out of it. With really good control, we see it quite frequently. Terrans and Zergs alike, they don't really take a lot of damage from the upgrade, and suddenly you find yourself quite far behind. But apparently Nightmare feels like he needs to deal a lot of damage early on in order to win against Clem. And so far, you can already see as to why that is, because this has been a very aggressive early game. And Clem is already finding himself with nearly 10 supply. Well, yeah, almost 10 supply of elite. At least when I started that sentence. Right now that has been reduced a little bit. He doesn't have a third command center. Quite scary to go for that at this point in time. But neither, of course, does Nightmare have a third nexus of his own. There's a Banshee doing a bit of sightseeing. For some reason, the Stalkers... that is the slowest response I've seen in a while. It's because he's busy inside of the main base. The Adepts have already come in. A big warp in, too. And while all of these probes are in trouble because a Banshee just simply flew by everything, the SCVs are dying in massive numbers. Oh my god, the siege tank needs to be careful, man. Sometimes the siege tank can actually deal a lot of friendly fire, but already 21 workers going down is massive. Another wave of Adepts inside of the main. Honestly, Clem is gonna have to go for a counterattack sooner or later. I'm pretty happy here for his one Banshee getting 6 kills in. I think that's better than he could have hoped for. Because that actually makes the worker counts reasonably okay. Keep in mind, still no third nexus for Protoss. So despite all these losses, yeah, ultimately the Adepts will fall off. There's not really a lot of follow-up right now planned for Nightmare yet either. So as long as Clem finds himself in a position where he can somewhat macro up and not be massively behind economically, I think he'll be fine. Nightmare essentially committing from all-in into all-in. Getting a lot of worker kills. But it's one of those awkward scenarios where, like, yeah, 27 worker kills is good. But is it good enough? Because it's not like those unit kills just came for free. There is no blink or anything on the back of this, so there's still very much so an army that is based around the Adept. And I don't really see what Adepts are going to be able to do shading up this high ground. Okay. Keep in mind that there's no Forge upgrade either here for Nightmare, so he is turning the all-in into an all-in into another all-in. There's all-inception going on right now. It's funny because I've seen him play a lot of macro games, but I guess he's just not too confident playing against Clem. Can't really blame the man. Here go the Banshees, by the way, once more. Now it's 2 of them. Yeah, shield battery is not enough. With good synchronized shots, and that's what's quite difficult, I guess, when you have a lot of ping. Not the case in this particular match, but with good synchronized shooting, those Banshees can put in a ton of work. Ultimately, a couple Stalkers did finish off one of them. There was a Shade Buy in the natural expansion too. Looks like the siege tank has disappeared. And Clem is being punched in the face, man. Like, he's lost 42 SCVs. That's a lot. Banshee's still getting a bunch of kills too. I think all of this would have been amazing for Nightmare if he didn't then simultaneously also lose. I think every single one of those probes, -1, other than the scouting worker early on, I think every single one of these workers was killed by a Banshee. That's suboptimal. That is not ideal. Okay. Okay. Clem wondering what the next battle scar is going to be like. Well, this time around he shuts down the Prism with it too. Produced a Viking specifically for that job, but apparently the Viking is not even a necessity at this point. And here we go again. We're nearly 10 minutes into the game. The main is gonna start running out, by the way. So that is an awkward scenario, I guess, for Clem here at some point, because those mules, they do mine out the mineral fields really quickly. But it's finally time. This is the first time that Clem goes across the map. with something that's not a Banshee. It's finally time here for the Frenchman to set foot on the opponent's side of the map. Looks like the Banshee ultimately got killed in the back. A couple more Adepts managed to shade by. Gonna have to lift that depot, fair enough. All is good in that department. Alright. Is there enough right now for Nightmare to hold? Shield battery overcharge is really powerful. There's obviously no Colossi, Disruptors, anything that deals splash damage. So he needs to hold on just by trying to force field and using all of those defensive structures here. Stalkers, though, are gonna get blink. So maybe he's gonna be able to punish mistakes here from the Terran player. This is, of course, quite a difficult game to judge right now. And Clem decides, you know what? I don't have any Medivacs. Well, he's got 2 right now, but I may as well just try and see if I can... Can we save it? Oh, nice. May as well try and see if maybe I should back off for just a sec. Okay, so will anybody in this game be committing to a third? I think you have to. Clem can obviously fly a command center if times are really desperate. He could be flying this CC down towards, well, for example, the pocket base over here, or like the triangular base. Whereas Nightmare doesn't have that luxury. He's saving up right now, but he's not, yeah, it's it's expensive. I wonder if he should just be warping in more Stalkers instead. Turns out he also makes that decision here in the end. Third command center is building for the Terran. Quite aggressively positioned, actually. It doesn't really need to be down over there, but... Anyways, more Adepts and more Stalkers is going to be the name of the game, whereas Clem is just growing his Marine Marauder mine army. And this is the type of army, though, that scales a lot better the longer that the game goes on. Adepts, though, shading once more into the natural expansion, killing more and more SCVs. Fight over here in the middle of the map as well while there's a drop going on. A lot of that Terran army supply is currently caught inside of the main base. It's putting in a ton of work. Those Adepts are actually putting in a lot of work, though, as well in the straight-up engagements. No Medivacs to save these bad boys, so I think the Stalkers will probably continue blinking unless they decide to recall. And that's what they indeed do. Can we blink after those Medivacs? Oh, it wasn't cooldown. He just used it. Okay. Just like that. With Nightmare losing the battles and losing the economy, it is going to be Clem who wins game number 1, but my god. Yeah, it's funny, so we saw tons of SCVs going down, but then every time Clem went across the map, he also killed a significant number of probes. Game number 2, we find ourselves on Ghost River. More than 80 workers going down. In essentially just an extended 2 base for both players, which is kind of funny. Generally speaking, we don't really see that many workers falling, because most of the time you only have about 40 on 2 bases. You'd imagine that at that point both players had 0 workers remaining, but they did apparently decide to reinforce some of those lost workers as well. Alrighty, Ghost River is usually a very aggressive map. Apparently Nightmare believes Amphion to be a very aggressive one too, so I'm fully expecting that the Protoss is once again gonna do something a little cheeky. Is Clem going to SCV scout? So all of that drama in the early game started because Clem refused to SCV scout. It would be cool, it would be kind of a cool play if he just skips the SCV once again. Think, nah, I don't care. Nah, I don't care. Yeah. Alrighty then. Well, what are we going to do this time around? I am hard-pressed to imagine Nightmare just going for a normal macro game this time around, although maybe he's seen something from Clem that prompts him to do something along those lines. Clem, by the way, just fully going for a normal build. A normal build without an SCV scout, that is. No Reaper either, so it's a Marine first, which means that he's going to be completely in the dark other than this tiny scout. That was it. That's the only scouting he's going to do. You know what? This time around, he will be able to get away with it easy peasy as well. Nightmare has not gone for a proxy this time, but it would have been funny to see something along those lines again. I think in Clem's mind, right, he's thinking, yo, what are the odds of my opponent doing the exact same build twice in a row? Well, I mean, they weren't 0. I can tell you that much. Even just a double gate opener at home would have been a play. What? Really? Nightmare has gone for a proxy pylon over here in the middle of the map. This feels like such a... Like, you buy yourself a couple of seconds. It's a very low committal proxy. Because the map is already so quick. I wonder if he's going to send workers across to try and mine out these resource fields, but that would be kind of nutty too. Alright. Well, let's see. He has no tech structure of choice yet. It is triple gateway. So that means he is certainly looking to put on some pressure once again on the other side. He needs to deal damage with this sort of opener, because obviously there's not going to be a Stargate. There's not going to be a Twilight Council upgrade. No Dark Templar follow-up. Not even a Disruptor drop, right? It's going to just be a bunch of gateway units. Softening up the Marines is huge. Medevacs are a long way off. Don't lose an Adept. Okay, nicely done. The SCVs are hunting. Okay, would have been nice to get one additional hit in. But ultimately, decent defense here by Clem, but he really needs to make a bunker. I can't believe Clem is playing this greedily in 2 games. A bunker would not be a luxury. So he's got Stimpack, combat shields, and +1 infantry weapons coming. So this is a triple Rex opener from the French Terran. Which means you just get an absurd amount of unit production, and that may honestly work out decently well for him against the triple gate shenanigans. Twilight Council and Robo Facility on the back of this too right now for Nightmare. He can't really contest with those Stalkers for now though. Can we move that one around? Yeah, thank you. That Stalker was playing with its life. Adepts get warped in? Really? We're warping in Adepts? I feel like Stalkers would make a lot more sense. Oh, he's going Glaives again. Back-to-back Glaives. Interesting. I think we could maximize the damage a little bit more, though. Speaking of maximize, I think Max would have microed... Okay, sorry. I think Max Specs would have microed this a little bit differently, is what I'm saying. A decent amount of damage done right now by Nightmare, but these SCVs have been able to get away with a lot of mining, even though Protoss has almost got full control of the Terran's natural. Clem right now, though, has already got Stimpack. Combat shields and infantry weapons finishing up. Robo Bay on the back of this right now, too, for Protoss. But Terran already has a hell of an army. The unit production of the triple Rex is really handy in this, in this regard. Obviously, every stim is expensive. Can't just stim continuously without any medevacs. And there is a prism. Oh my god. Oh no. Ugh. You had one job, Prism, and one job only. Alright. Now, I did not expect Glaives, and I wonder if Clem is going to expect Glaives. I would say, though, that the Glaives upgrade is better when you have Adepts. He currently has 0. I don't think it's very common to go for the Resonating Glaives research and then not have any Adepts. He literally has none. I think this might be the first time I see Resonating Glaives finishing up. And there's no Adepts available. We have a couple of them being warped in at home, but that's it. That upgrade, by the way, does not benefit anything but Adepts. Now, it is really good, actually, for base defense at this point in time. Like, these Marines and Marauders are expecting something that is not Adepts and a Colossus. Like, this is a very strange combination of units to come across at the 6-minute mark. A Colossus without range, then about, I don't know, 7 or so Adepts. Don't lose the Colossus! Oh my god, he actually loses it. Got very far out onto the map. And I don't really like this here for Nightmare. He's gonna finish up the ranged upgrade for Colossi as well without having a Colossus. Not quite. He's gonna get one right now, but it's kind of like the Adept research. Generally speaking, you want to try and keep units alive until you get the upgrade done. This can still deal damage, though. Clem's army, it's nothing all too significant. He's busy right now building infrastructure, and he did decide to go for a third CC. That is a third command center that could have been like 8 Marines instead. And I wonder if he would have been better off with 8 Marines. He's got a bunch of adepts as well, threatening to run by into the natural. The little Marauder squad from earlier, the ones that were in charge of killing the one Colossus, they're now trying to kill whatever they can. Clem is a very dangerous man, but does he have enough stuff to deal with just a stupid amount of adepts? Yeah, make it more. Make it more than a stupid amount of adepts. Okay, Colossus gets the final hit in as well. I think he's actually dead. What a game from Nightmare. So much room for improvement as well. I can't believe he actually pulls this one off. The micro here for Protoss was not quite clean, but ultimately I think Clem is also second-guessing a lot of the decisions he's making right now, because this is very far from the norm. Can he get the prism at least? Can he get something? Okay, he does get the prism. But normally, you don't see 24 adepts at the 8-minute mark, and they just shade straight into the main base. And there's about a 0% chance that Clem is going to be able to defend this. He drops a mule. The very ambitious mule. It did end up going down immediately. Dude, how many times do we see adepts killing siege tanks? Okay. Final game. It will take place on the map Alcyone. I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit of scouting from Clem. Because he's going across the map several times now, fully expecting that it's a regular follow-up as well. But it turns out that's not quite the case. Right? And he's building the third command center of his, as if it was going to just be like a Stalker Colossus follow-up with a quick third Nexus as well from the Protoss. And everything was, you know, in his mind going to go like it always goes. And then, well, you find yourself up against Nightmare, who apparently is just doing extended 2-base all-ins. Very funky, but very strong. It's one of the downsides of playing the established meta strategies, I guess. Sometimes you might just find yourself caught off guard. A lot of Protoss players are feeling a lot more confident right now in this matchup. Likewise, Protoss versus Zerg is looking a lot better than it has over the last few years. So I think Clem may also be, yeah, just expecting that pretty much every single Protoss is going to be happy to play the longer game. There's really no, like what I'm trying to say is there's no need to play all-ins. But apparently Nightmare is, yeah, throwing in a couple curveballs, and I gotta say, I do like it. So, no proxy gates this time around. He is scouting all over his side of the map. It's straight reactor from Clem? Okay, it's double gas at the very least. So he is scoutless going straight reactor. This is probably gonna just be marine production into a factory. Yeah. We'll probably see a command center momentarily, but this is a relatively safe opener, right? Like, if you are gonna go scoutless, even though this does seem quite greedy, at least you're gonna be able to produce a lot of units right at the very start of the game, and at the very least get some decently high-tiered units as well. Okay, so game number 1, proxy gateway from Nightmare. Game number 2, triple gate proxy from Nightmare. I mean, one of the gateways was proxied, but obviously it had warp gates, so you could very quickly reinforce. Oh, it's gonna be Reapers. Okay, that's weird, but fair enough. Reapers and Hellions. Very common unit composition in TVT, but not usually against Protoss. There's a 1 Zealot going across. This guy's gonna struggle against these jetpack raiders. Yeah, there's no chance, buddy. I'm sorry. My life for ire! You did nothing. You did nothing. No. No. Alright. Instant Twilight Council. Now, I would say 9 out of 10 games, actually more than that, probably 95 out of 100 games, this is going to be Blink. But evidently Nightmare is a big fan of going into the Glaive to Depth upgrade. Maybe I've been watching too many Hero and Max Specs games, because they pretty much always go Blink. Okay, it is going to be Blink. I was going to say, if he goes Glaives again, 3 games in a row, that would be kind of nutty. Very difficult to defend against really anything. Okay, so we have a little hit squad of units. Couple Hellions. 3 of those Adepts. No, Adepts. Terran Adepts. The Reapers as well. This mineral line could be in trouble though. It's an uncommon start for Terran, but still a very strong one. Careful. He's been bleeding out one too many Adepts already. Those gateway units are critical. There is no shield battery or anything along those lines. I'm a little surprised he didn't go for a single battery upon seeing what the opponent was doing. Stalker gets warped in, but the problem here for the Protoss at this point is that he's only got a single gateway. So he just can't do too much. And this is a lot of damage. Now keep in mind, this has been a double gas opener for Clem, so he needs to deal damage. Like, he needs to justify going for that opener. But this more than justifies that. 12 probe kills is really nice. And now suddenly, even though we don't have Stimpack or any upgrade yet for the Terran army, we just have everything rallied across the map. With Blink finishing up, there is a chance that Nightmare is going to be able to hold a little bit more easily. Medevac also comes in. He can micro here for quite a while. Yeah, he wants to get that low HP Stalker. Do we have a battery? My god, Nightmare. We really need like a single battery would really save your butt many times. Instead, we're going to be pulling probes, which is a lot more costly. Aggressive Blink forward to try and snipe the Cyclone. I mean, he's going to be able to clean all of this up. Stalker blinked away just barely in the nick of time. He would love to get that medevac. If he can get the medevac, he's actually in a good position. Okay. Ooh. Blink is on cooldown right now. It's available. Can we? Okay. He just settled for the Marine instead. Okay. A little bit of an overextension right there by Clem. Maybe a bit overconfident in his control. Or maybe underestimating Nightmare's control a little bit. Who's just going to be running by. Jeez, man. These are all low HP Stalkers. These guys are one shot of a siege tank away from being dead. If we lose 4 Stalkers at this point, I think you lose the game. You can always recall it, and he might just as well, because there is a Liberator in the meantime in the natural. I think this is a little too overly ambitious, but... Gets 2 of the Stalkers out, does kill a couple of the Terran units in the meantime. Okay. It's about time we go into the combat shields and Stimpack upgrades, Clem. At the very least, Stimpack. He's a little afraid right now of the Blinky boys. But quite a few of those Stalkers have already been killed. 3 of them actually going down is not bad at all. We're still only on just 2 gateways. So normally with 2 gates... Normally with 2 gates, you go into a quick 3rd Nexus. That's usually the idea, as we do have a move forward over here as well. Yeah, way too much Terran. That was way too much. Normally with 2 gateways, you go into a 3rd Nexus really rapidly, but instead what Nightmare is doing right now is following this up with a very quick Robo Bay. So the man's basically allergic to making a 3rd Nexus in this series. Can't say I dislike it. Unconventional strategies are always a lot of fun to watch. I'm just not sure that it's gonna work out against Clem this time, because look at the supply count. This is kind of like game number 1. Although in game number 1 things went a little bit better for Nightmare overall. But it's kind of like game number 1 in the sense that he's done a lot of damage on the other side of the map, but ultimately you're also going to have to hold this Terran attack. Stimpack is very late in this game, but it will finish eventually, and when it does, Terran is going to start moving across the map. He's thinking about making a Nexus right now, and I don't think he really has a choice, but look at this Terran army. Look at the army value. Maybe that's a better way to put it. Let me plot the army size. Yeah, this is suboptimal. There's a 3rd command center about a 1/3 of the way done as well for Clem, so this is not entirely all in or anything. Oh my god, he even saves the low HP Marines with the medevac. Medevac pretending to be a warp prism. 3rd Nexus is gonna be in a lot of trouble, and Nightmare can't really continue playing this game without it. The Raven doesn't have interference matrix, so at the very least that balance patch goes in favor here of the Protoss for just a little bit, because imagine the Colossi just not being able to get any damage in here either, but... I mean, even an anti-armor missile would not be a terrible play, but I guess we can just drop a bunch of auto turrets. I think Clem is gonna try and go in for a chokehold here. Yeah, he's gonna try and tighten the noose. A slow push into the natural expansion. Only just now is when we have our first shield battery coming up. And it's very far forward. Gets cancelled immediately. Extended thermal lens does finish. Okay. This is usually quite dangerous for Terran, right? Because the longer you stay out here, the more reinforcements there will be for the Protoss. But I think in this particular instance, Clem realizes that he is very far ahead. Charge is going to finish up. Normally that is a very nice upgrade to have when it comes to defending, but there's just so much Terran. This isn't even the entire army though. There's still a lot more coming across. Yeah. Clem's basically saying, get out of my game. This is the Terran equivalent of get out of my game. And ultimately, he manages indeed to get it done.